What did the quiet kid in school do that surprised everyone? Went on to becoming a Harvard graduate and lived a full life. I was the quiet kid everyone bullied for being poor. Flashed us. Yep. We had this try-hard one kid who wanted to be cool back in 8th grade. But he didn't want to fit in with the sports crowd or the class clowns or the personalities of the school. No. He wanted to fit in with the stoners. Thing was, this kid was raised in what I could only assume was a super Christian home. He was never really annoying. Often a very quiet kid who'd say something stupid every now and then. One time, after everyone in the school knew I had caught bronchitis, he accused me of having a smoker's cough because he wanted to sound like he knew what that was. Basically, imagine him as the stoner version of I am very smart. One time in my advanced math class, he decided he was going to try to be the cool kid again. Why he did it in a class with the smart students, I don't know. Out of nowhere, the kid got up, put some hand sanitizer in his hands, and clapped, sending it everywhere, and screamed "There's cum everywhere." We were all just in disbelief. We had no idea what the duck was going on. I still have no idea what the duck was going on. Too long didn't read "There was cum everywhere." I was one of those kids back in 2nd grade or so. During recess, I opened up my book bag and pulled out my car stereo taped to an amplified parametric equalizer along with a small 12-volt battery. The EC was powering some huge over-the-ear headphones. This was back in Central America when some of the popular music was original dancehall reggae, not the Spanish reggae you hear these days. Everyone was blown away after they took turns listening to the hard-hitting fidelity of my setup. If I were to do that today in America, it would have been mistaken for a bomb and I would have ended up incarcerated or put on for-profit probation to then be sent to an alternative school. Volunteered to be the class president. I was the quiet kid, went for a bully and bust her nose all the time I had a bad day, and said shit very loudly in front of a school inspector when she asked what it was like at the school. I was the quiet kid. One morning in art class, a kid who had been giving me a hard time sprayed oven cleaner in my face while the teacher was out of the room. I calmly grabbed some paper towels, wiped my face, and then grabbed my laughing assailant and threw him across the room. I proceeded to place my boot on his throat and make him beg for his life before I returned to my seat and resumed painting. The teacher came back to find me painting quietly in one corner. The rest of the class huddled in the opposite corner claiming I'd hurt the kid. I simply said, now would I go and do a thing like that? And it was over. Word got around and people started to leave me alone. Until that evening, on the bus, a kid decided to sit behind me and flick me rather painfully in the ears. So I hit him with my calculus book. He appealed to the bus driver, who must have seen me do it. But he didn't know that the bus driver was my best friend's father. He then announced his parents would appeal to the bus company. He didn't know the driver owned the bus company. Needless to say, he didn't get far, and he learned not to mess with me. Got ninja headbands UN banned. The school thought they were gangster paraphernalia or some crap. That would be me. I was being bullied in my government class by one of the members of my school's football team. One day, after one too many jabs at my eccentricities, I finally snapped and proceeded to beat him over the head with my purse with the approval of my teacher, who also hated this guy. I don't know which surprised my class more, the fact that I, a slightly overweight 5'2" gal, beat up a football player, or the fact that I got away with it. I remember this one kid being quiet all the time, and then at the end of the year everyone had to do a presentation. He got up and gave a hilarious and informative presentation. At some point the teacher tried to chime in, and the kid was like, "Excuse me, please don't interrupt while I'm speaking," and it was one of the funniest things ever. He pisses his pants and was forever known as Timmy the Tinkler. We came back from recess, and he had broken into our trailer classroom and trashed the place, flipping over desks, throwing papers all over the place, scribbling on the walls, etc. He snuck back out and came back to play. When we walked back from recess it was pretty obvious he had done it. He just clammed up and wouldn't talk at all. He stabbed someone else with a pencil. He was also known as that really smart kid. At this weird don't bully retreat we had talked about different talents we had, and he revealed he could put both legs behind his head. It was incredible. We all chanted his name. Truly insane. All he did was read books and hardly talk to a soul. Come freshman German the Ducker has the craziest long jump any of us had seen. We were baffled. He ends up getting encouraged to join the track team and becomes their best long jumper. Won a shit ton of meets throughout high school. This quiet kid literally took a shit in our classroom when we were all out in the gym for pep. When we got back, we smelled this. Oh god, the smell. The smell. We saw him in the middle of the room surrounded by chairs and all that with papers covering his crime while he still crouched. He just had an explosive diarrhea. Needless to say we all went home a little early that day. Haha. And oh, this happened in 6th grade. I was the quiet kid. Apparently, I had a brain fart and said virgin instead of version. I was talking about baked goods by the way. I clarified it what I meant. A classmate was like, oh, well jury virgin, because you're a good girl and that's all that matters. The person didn't mean it to sound demeaning or anything, because I was seen as a goody two shoes. My response was, I'm not though. This made my teacher and my classmate bewildered. Other than that, nothing really happened. I'm that quiet kid and I'll explain the past month to you. I start talking to a girl, and we had a minor thing going. She was cute and my friends were happy for me. Cut to last week and this girl, that I've been friends with for a while, starts coming onto me. I was having a shitty time with it, because I was kinda having to decide what to do, but my friends thought I was a god getting 2 girls at once. I knew this chick since elementary school. She kept to herself and was super quiet. I think the only times I really heard her speak was when she said, here, during roll call. Anyway, MySpace became a thing when we were around 15 years old and she sent me a friend request. Turns out she was super ghetto. Like Eminem quoting. Ebonics writing ghetto. We were from the suburbs. I did not expect that. Punched me in the face. Just out of nowhere. Like 5 times. I was in a class and the teacher was being a real cunt that day and wouldn't let me drink my drink. No one cares about what you're talking about. Right. No one's listening to you. The entire class was silent. I've been friends with him ever since. I used to be the quiet kid who didn't say much in class. I was also known as the one girl who was pretty good at drawing. I don't know if this would be considered the best thing I ever did, but I do remember something I'm somewhat proud of. For my 11th grade English class, we read through Shakespeare's Macbeth, and the project for that module was a creative project that incorporated the themes of the play. Two of those themes were internal, external, heck and torture. For some reason, we had to present our projects to the class. So, my 11th grade self decided to take all the characters in Macbeth and draw them as tortured spirits, connected to a specific medieval torture method. So, Macbeth was drawn with a prisoner's collar, a device that was used to prevent sleep, just like he was deprived of in the play. Banquo was drawn with a heretic's fork, a device that was used to prevent a person from talking, just like how Banquo was killed, in order to guarantee his silence, etc. etc. I got an A on that project, but the presentation of it to the class certainly earned me a few stares. Whoops. There was a kid who was relatively quiet throughout middle school who, for some reason, on one of the last days of our 8th grade year, wore a pink beard to school. We were playing kickball, and when it was his turn at the plate, he shouted, "I am a bearded god," and kicked that green rubber ball with all his might, right back into the pitcher's hands. He then yelled shit at the top of his lungs, and the teacher supervising things took him to the office. It was me. I didn't say anything. Please, move on. The quiet kid said nothing, and in many ways that's the best thing he ever could have said. Somehow the topic of dildos came up, and a girl asked why they make dildos with suction cups on them. Out of nowhere, the quiet goth boy in the back answers, way too readily, "It's so you just stick it on the fridge and back on up." There was this quiet kid in our math class in high school in the 90s. One day, when everyone was working on an assignment at the end of the class, a really cute girl in the front row, sitting right in front of him, turned around and scolded him for making out with her and never calling her again. The dude looked shocked, then just smiled. He didn't say a word, but it was his loudest moment ever. It was the 90s, so most of the guys were openly impressed. Not sure if that's okay anymore, but that's how it was. My final year of English class in high school. I live in the UK, by the way, so I was 16, was super tight knit. We had running jokes and everyone kinda left everything at the door with regards to cliques and shit. So at the end of the year the teacher gave out awards, and the quiet kid got the award for saying a grand total of 4 words in the whole 2 years we were there. However, a bit of a follow-up from that is that shortly thereafter we dated for a short while, and she was incredibly talkative, which was very strange, because I had only talked to her once or twice in the 5 years of secondary school. So Courtney, if you're out there, say more shit, cause you're pretty cool. Not that anyone asked, but I thought it was funny to add that my award was to Batsy for saying the most inappropriate thing at the most inconvenient time to the most unsuitable person, which was almost the polar opposite of Courtney's. Edit: it was not one specific thing I said. Instead, it was a string of incidents, some of which involved jokes about kicking puppies, socialism, and Macbeth's extramarital affairs with another student's mother. I remember one time he made me bust my gut was when a teacher we had would give a quick countdown before moving on to the next subject by saying, "Everyone understand? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, well." The teacher shortened to once, twice, 3 times. Quiet kid says, lady in a mildly singing tone. Funny shit, man. One time in class my teacher mentions the unlimited possibilities of women and how women can do anything men can do, and my quiet friend whispers to me, "Women can't be sperm donors." It was silent, so the whole classroom heard it, and they talk to this day about it. Freshman math class. There was a popular, annoying girl that would just complain about everything. Everyone just kinda agreed and dealt with her because she was hot. But the quiet kid in the class was fed up with her on one of the last few weeks of school. She came in complaining about how terrible her life was. Her boyfriend broke up with her. She didn't get a lot of sleep last night, overslept and skipped breakfast. Her life was terrible. You get the point. The quiet kid said to her quietly, of course literally no one here cares, and everyone went silent. But then she said, no, you don't understand how awful my week has been. Then the quiet kid said, I remember this word for word, yeah. Have you just been diagnosed with cancer for the 3rd time? Cause I have. Is it worse than that? Wanna shut up now? The whole class went dead silent. Me and that kid actually became pretty good friends after that. Really nice kid. He beat cancer later that year for the 3rd time. There was this Chinese dude who was pretty low-key, and one day this man jumped, did a Chinese move and slapped a bee and killed it. He was respected after that day, slapped a bee barehanded. A boy threw a penny at a girl in Latin class and she yelled, why did you throw a penny at me? The quiet girl whispered so just our friend group could hear, because that's how much you cost. I was the quiet kid through most of school as I moved around a lot. In 8th grade I think, and my class was playing a game where So the quiet kid started packing before the teacher said he could, but Jed didn't see it. So he gets up and tries to leave, but the teacher sees him and runs to him and starts chasing him across the room. The and each class would have a party nominated to give a speech in front of the whole school. So this kid went up in front of a school who had never heard him talk before and gave a goddamn flawless 10-minute speech. Never heard anything like it. And he won with a landslide. He threw the biggest prom after party that anyone could imagine. He lived on a farm and had a huge area of land in the back. Some of the popular kids set up a Facebook event for a prom after party as a joke and put his address. At first he freaked out because over 300 people said they were going to attend. But goddamn did Davy Jones ever deliver. What a legend. Straight out of Project X. He shit a log legit the size of the average adult's forearm. We knew it was him because he was the last person to leave the bathroom before we found it, and he was limping. Caught a goose. Put the neck of the goose through the spokes of his bike and broke its neck by spinning the wheel. 7th grade. He had a breakdown in the middle of language arts class. He stood up and hurled a desk across the room, probably not that far actually, but to my 12-year-old brain it was a long way, and started clawing at his own arm and drew blood and was crying really hard. I don't remember what had happened right before it, if anything. My teacher was really calm though. She said, "Why don't the rest of you go wait quietly in the hall so that kid and I can talk?" The rest of us were completely freaked out, so we did that. And one girl had the foresight to go to a nearby classroom and inform the teacher there of what was going on. That teacher called the counseling office and the 7th grade counselor came jogging over and went into the classroom with kid and our teacher. We couldn't hear much except kid yelling, crying unintelligibly. And after a few minutes counselor came out and told us to go to the library for the remainder of the period. Kid was out for a week after that. And Ms. teacher explained that he'd been going through a rough time recently. After that he went back to being his usual reclusive self from what I noticed. I was the quiet kid. Got picked on every single day by this one kid. One day I got so sick of it and punched him in the side of his head about on the ear, and everyone stared at him waiting for him to do something. He just walked away. Made me feel good. Have 50k follower on Instagram. He was quiet, and also the wimpy kid who got picked last for sports teams. Turned up to the 10-year class reunion as a massively ripped bodybuilder dude with a trophy wife. The quiet kid in our school made a hit list. He wrote down every person he didn't like in our grade and planned to hurt them in some form or another, and sent the list to a friend of his who turned it into the office. He was forever banned from attending school events or going near the school. He was forced to be homeschooled. The shyest kid at our school was so shy that he'd cry when teachers called on him to state his opinion on a matter. Years later, now he is a somewhat successful rapper, and I've heard that he kills it when he performs live on stages. Got pregnant. She was 15 at the time. Was giving his presentation, and his poster keeps falling down due to weak magnets. Eventually just says "duck it" out loud and moves on. Came into class without his shirt on. Hammered. Then he was later arrested for rolling around in the library drunk. Pissed his pants when he was 16. Poor thing never lived that down. Gnashed his teeth and bit the recess lady's breast. And then one time he hit me with a surprise left that hurt my jaw. I can't even put into words what he ended up doing. It was so shocking. Walked around the playground with his arms folded inside his shirt to look like a Drex arms and making the associated sounds. We proceeded to shoot him with our Styx laser blaster and throw our pine cone grenades at him. Looking back, he was probably the quiet kid because of us. Whoa, my username has never been more relevant. I am that weird quiet kid. So there was this guy, stereotypical jock, Linebacker on the HS football team. Yada yada, who bullied me every single day. From the day we first met in 7th grade to my senior year of high school. Called me a lesbian. Asked when I was gonna shoot up the school. Threw food at me, etc. Senior year, one day we are walking past each other in the cafeteria and he goes, AIII. Witquitone. Whose PSS why did you lick today? And I just lost it. I was done. I punched him dead in his nose. I got suspended several days. He came back to school with 2 black eyes. And no one ducked with me again. Honestly, I should've stood up for myself and punched him sooner. I'm late to this party, but what the heck? There was this quiet kid who got picked on a lot in gym class. During dodgeball, he always got the brunt of the hits. One day, a ball happened to find its way to his junk. The coach called him out for that hit, and he went over to the prison. An asshole jock, famous for some past issues, asked him, "How do your nuts feel now, man?" in a sneering, condescending tone. He replied, "I don't know. How did yours feel after they made a kid when you were 15? Jock was shocked and silent, and the rest of the kids stood up wide-eyed and drop-jawed. I was the quite always sleeping kid. The chemical teacher asked me a question on something that she didn't teach yet, probably to show how much I was missing by sleeping. What she and the rest of the class didn't expect was me giving a detailed answer. Everyone went quiet and the teacher said something like, I didn't expect you to know any of that." Jenny used to scrape the perpetual scab on the top of her head onto her desk, brush the scab into her hand off of her desk, and eat the scabs. To quiet kids at my school, one of them has something called selective mutism. The other is a good friend of mine, but is still fairly quiet. First kid apparently unloaded a huge shit on the floor of the boys' toilets, but I never saw that. The other kid apparently shat in a bin at his old school. We also had a kid with selective mutism, but he was a super ducking cool guy. If you sat in the back of the room with him and talked really quietly, sometimes he would talk back. I go to a magnet school and the quiet kid from a few years ago was, or maybe still is, on the FBI top 10 most wanted. Given it's a magnet school, you'd think hacking or something cool, but nope, he is wanted for CP. He's a radio show host, interviewer and DJ for wedding receptions. Talking has become his specialty. I was super quiet in school, and it always blew people's minds when they found out I played hockey and rode motorcycles. People only found out when I came to school in a wheelchair with a broken pelvis from crashing my dirt bike at the sand dunes. I'm the quiet kid in this story. During band practice, one of the rich kids in my section started chucking pine cones at me. When he continued, after I told him to knock it off, I put him on a chokehold, then punched him in the back of the head. My best friend was also in percussion section and described it as a deafening crack, and could tell by the kid's face that he had felt pain despite his insistence that I hit like a bitch. He never ducked with me after that. He would hit on any girl. When in 6th grade he would sit and sharpen pencils with his teeth. He was quiet ever since middle school. Once we moved on to high school, he was dressing in a black trench coat, carrying a Walmart radio, and wearing finger gloves. We thought he was a drug dealer, but no, he just sold power elixirs, which is sriracha hot sauce mixed with Gatorade in an Erlenmeyer flask. He'd also run to class like they run in Naruto. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.